We're live.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tasha Sims,
And I'm Marc Caron.
and this is Conscious Living Radio, 100.5 FM in Vancouver. Although, of course, some of you may be watching on Facebook, and we're doing a Facebook Live. And then, of course, the audio gets put on our weekly radio show on Co-op Radio here in Vancouver. So tonight or today, it's hard to tell, right, Marc? Time, it has no meaning anymore.
The time is now,
The time is
always.
now. Our guest is Yemaya Renuka. She's devoted the past 30 years to understanding and contributing to the healing of people who suffer from childhood adversity and trauma. Her own need for empowerment and recovery had her explore many modalities and share heart offerings in intentional communities, healing centers. She led retreats around the world, studied somatic therapy, Zen Buddhism, yoga, Ayurveda, five rhythms, dance, plant medicines. And as a somatic therapist, she created TheEmbrace.life, an online platform offering her work in the form of 3-month programs and one-on-one mentoring support. Her current focus is in helping people transform their relationship to grief and loss so they can feel their power, purpose, and passion. Welcome to the show, Yemaya.
Thank you, Tasha.
So let's start a bit with your personal story and what brought you to this moment, focused on mourning as a path to embodied freedom.
Well, I got into the habit to say that I was propelled on my healing path at a young age. Some of us have come with different journeys, and some people just in their later time of life feel like there is something that's not working for them, so then they start looking for healing. For me, I had no choice. So, it was about survival. I was in such an amount of pain at a very young age that I had to, search right away. It's like, okay, how do I deal with this life? So I was separated from my mother at age 5, which is very young, from a very violent father, which, I've forgiven and who has passed on now for 10 years. My mother had to escape his violence. You kind of name it, like there was, emotional abuse, there was violence, there was the abandonment created by losing my mother. I ended up leaving home at 16 years old, running for my life, jumping over the fence and, disappearing into the wild world. So, I think I was really lucky to actually, I'm really grateful for this path because I had no, well, maybe I'm going to become a spiritual person or maybe I'm going to, tackle healing. It was just like, no, girl, you got to do that because, while other people might be able to comfort themselves, with addictions and drugs, I was given a very sensitive body. And even though I tried to go that route, I could not. It's like I would, like very young, I moved to the States. I ended up in San Francisco, which was also a blessing because there is so much healing available there, especially in the 90s. And when I tried to go into the path of partying and alcohol and drugs, like straight to the hospital, having hives, and so I did not have that ability to cope with unhealthy ways.
Do you believe that because you stepped up as a teacher, so this is your path of recovery and then learning all these different modalities, and I'm hearing you say it was because you needed to. And I wonder, and I ask our guests this question a lot, it seems to me that the teachers themselves, or people who are on purpose, who understand their purpose and their passion and what they're giving the world, there's a direct link into their past wounding, like a direct link. And so what I'm hearing you say is you knew on some level, the divine setup is you had no choice but to go down this path. You didn't waste 20 years partying. You had to figure this thing out. Have I got you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The archetype of the wounded shaman or wounded healer. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you trained with, I'm really interested in your work with Marian Rosen, and what brought you to this understanding that embodiment is so crucial to freedom. And I wonder for listeners who might be maybe more comfortable in their head or being intellectual or rationalizing, which there's nothing wrong with. But with that missing component of what the body is saying, it's like being disabled in a way, right? With one of your skill sets. So I wonder if you could just touch on her particular way of understanding what embodiment means and how you applied that then to what you offer now.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll start with telling you how I found the Rosen Methods Institute. It was fairly early in my journey. I moved from San Francisco to a Zen Buddhist center, and something happened to me there that really, really triggered my abandonment issue. And so one day I woke up, I was 25, I could not stand up. I was curved, I said that I looked like a 90 years old arthritic, elder. And I just, pulled myself how I could, to the dining room of the monastery and, tried to get some food. And then that's when someone was like, I think you should take a look at this, and give me this brochure for the Rosen Method Institute. I had my first session with a practitioner, when she put her hands on my body, I'd unraveled, and it was, like the tears, the flow, just like the gates opened, So I decided to go and study with Marian. And it was such an incredible shift because, yes, the body holds, right? Like there is the famous book now, The Body Hold the Score, right? Or, like I say, the body does not lie, but the body has the ability to dissimulate by creating tension, right? So what happened to me that morning where I couldn't stand up is like there was so much pain in my heart that the entire muscle system and group around that area just, froze.
Mm-hmm.
And, to address the people that are finding refuge more in the mental, it's because they have the ability to have muscle groups and posturing happening to keep them from feeling what is challenging to feel. So the whole thing with, Marian's teaching is that we create posturing to cope with life's difficulties and challenges. So for some of us, it's, becoming defiant in the face of, adversity and violence. So you see, people that really walk with a very bone forward chest. We protect our hearts, with our left shoulder. We comply because perhaps we have gentler personality and we don't want to be defiant, and we comply and we start curving down. There's all these different posturing that help us cope until we're really ready to look at them and we're able to process them.
And we'll put a pin in the problem for a sec, because I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. How would that include other kinds of disorders of the organs or disease or autoimmune, so you're talking about very literal, the shoulder hurts, the world, or the weight of the world on your shoulder. But once we start dealing with organs and things, tell me where you move. Can you include that in what you're about to share now with?
Specifically the Rosen method is very much about the muscle and the skeletal, activity of the body. But you also find, most people now I think are aware, through Chinese medicine, for example, that the liver holds anger, right? So it's an organ that do process anger. Or autoimmune disease sometimes, what I've seen with clients is, or arthritis, is when we're not able to express, again, when we're not able to express the anger, the pain, we turn it in, right? We turn it in, and, often you see arthritis in the joints are the fire, that hasn't been put out. So it's coming in. The emotional body is supposed to be fluid and move, right? Emotion. And when we're not allowed to do that, which very sadly our society for the most part doesn't educate us to do that, it has to find ways to be, and so then it gets stuck into the organs, the joint system, the muscles. Does that make sense?
Total sense.
And so, or like if you're looking at Dr. Emoto's, work with the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like all those mental patterns, those things we keep repeating to ourselves, it has to go somewhere as well. So, if I had it my way, I would teach movement and emotional expression, in kindergarten.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
And so the folks that are living in their head, part of it is for safety, right? Because if you
Safety.
actually landed in your body, you would feel whatever the source, the original source is of that pain,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, can I just get you to define your understanding of the difference between a feeling and an emotion? Because we seem to use the words interchangeably.
An emotion is the part that needs to move, I believe. It's like it gets triggered. It gets triggered by thoughts, that brings you back to something, from very primal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very primal.
It's unconscious, actually. It's not necessarily at the front
Right.
layer where you even know. It just
Right.
happens, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden the tsunami of feeling is washing over you, but you have no idea the source, right? You attribute the source to what's in front of you. Yeah.
And
I have
Marc?
a question.
But just let her finish and feeling.
Oh, sorry.
Let her do feeling.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Well, feeling, it's a good question. It's a trick question, actually. I think, for me, feeling, it's something that you move with, you live with, you dance with, you sit with. It's like, or it's also related to intuition, right? When we say like, oh, I feel, it's
a knowing.
It's a knowing. It's also, it can be very sensory oriented as well. Yeah. So I think when you choose to, like, am I going to keep this feeling? It's like something that I want to what's the word I'm looking for? Almost invest. I want to invest in this feeling. And you can even, work with your energy, like, all right, I want to feel happy, and I'm going to work with that. That's the next level. It's like when you've already cleared all the emotions, that are getting a hold of you.
Have you noticed that with a feeling, there's always a thought, and with an emotion, it's the sympathetic nervous system is a fight, flight, freeze. It's instant. There's no time lapse because something just got activated on through a field that isn't conscious. Whereas a feeling you can actually consciously work with, like you're saying, change the feeling, choose the feeling, indulge the feeling, or move through the feeling. You can't repress the feeling. That one we know you can't do, but you have all these other choices if you understand the thoughts that you're thinking in that present moment. Would you agree with that?
I agree with a lot of it. I don't know that that a feeling is, it always has a thought attached to it. I don't think I agree to that because,
you don't think there's a feeling of I like this or I don't, even that simple, good, bad, like, there's a meaning. So maybe meaning is a better word.
But if you think about that, like the scent, right? And remember the Proust, the cookie, right? I don't know how you call it, la Madeleine in French, like that eating, that's that cookie that's reminding him. I don't know that the memories that came, for him about, that was my childhood and it felt good. I think first it's that the feeling comes through the sensory there, like, oh, that smell. Oh, my heart is opening. My solar plexus is relaxing. What is that? Anyway, but that's semantic. Okay.
Interesting. So okay, Marc, sorry, I didn't mean to derail you, but I just wanted to complete
that's okay, because
it
leaves me with a couple of questions, actually. One was about posturing, and one is about exactly the emotions versus feeling. At what point are we choosing our emotion versus consciously or unconsciously? And is that something that, because I kind of believe, at some point we've learned how to choose our emotion and our meaning to things. But at what point does that become, because you mentioned intuition as well, right? So there's intuition. I like what you said about feeling, like tactile and things of that nature. But at what point do we, accept responsibility for our emotions and feelings?
Yeah, I think that's, that is definitely one of the stages of the healing journey. I think at first, I often tell people, at first it's like we will have to prepare this garden, right? It's like first you pull the weeds, so, pull the weeds, uproot all the old stuff, using the body. Okay, where is it? Where is that pain? Tracking it, finding the history and being willing to change that, right? A lot of unwinding, the emotions need to go out, you need to cry. For some people, you need to rage in proper container, not at your neighbor, your children, your spouse, right? You want to really create the proper container to move the anger and the fire. That's so important. That's huge, right? And then I think when you've done like all that, laundry, and you got your clean slate, the mind is going to want to bring some of these feelings back, right? I mean, like we're so used to it. A lot of us even get attached, to the drama in our lives because it's comforting. That's what we know. So that's really when you need to start working with choosing your emotions, right? I really like the work of Abraham Hicks in that domain. I know for me that was really helpful, to pull myself out of depression, and like, okay, I'm going to choose the next, the higher echelon of the next feeling, and transform my depression into maybe anger and frustration, and and then boom, 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 like, okay, there's other possibilities. I remember standing at the, whatever bank line or post office line when we used to be able to do that years back, and really like, feeling the pull, maybe of sadness and grief wanting to pull me back, and just like, no, okay, observe what is beautiful around you. Oh, there are children and they're smiling, right? Oh, I like this person's, hat, and and that you start really engaging the mind to keep, the old patterns to pull you back. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's a really important stage of healing. Very
Well,
important.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And so when you're talking about posturing, and what I noticed is every time you talked and expressed a different emotion, you used your body in a different way, right? Which I loved. This is the thing I like about, these Facebook Live things and doing it this way, because we get to see people when, when we're doing our interviews. But is there a posture, like, how should we be carrying our body then to release these things? Because like you say, if we could teach this stuff in kindergarten, and we learn to release these things at a young age instead of suppressing our feelings because it's wrong, how can we carry our body just in a natural way every day to help us release some of that stuff we don't even know is there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just, I was a presenter at a beautiful conference 10 days ago called the Embodied conference that was very global. And the panel of, the most, top experts in the field, the first day was interesting because each one of them defined what is embodied to you, and every single one had a different definition, which was gorgeous, right? So at start, it's like my definition of being embodied first starts with the breath. So if we are, able to really be fluid with the breath, then everything, starts moving in a natural way. Most of our anxiety, or anger or fear are very located, in the solar plexus and diaphragm area, show, but we, most of the speakers, listeners, sorry, would know where the solar plexus diaphragm area, right underneath the ribs. Yeah. So that muscle is probably the most important muscles of all, because that muscle, when there's been a lot of trauma and fear, it tightens up, right? Every time we go, it's like those little, repetition of fears, that muscle, like any other muscle, tightens up. So a lot of the work, and a lot of the work from Marianne Rosen, was about loosening up the diaphragm so that it could, come back, people could come back to having full breath, full lungs capacity, good digestion, all that is the role of the diaphragm. I think once we're able to loosen that up, everything kind of starts falling into place. So, for us to, like if you don't have access to a practitioner, that works with you either, with hands-on or what we do these days with Zoom, like we do a lot of somatic work through Zoom, and helping people really presence, that's also a term I really like right now, presence into what's happening in their bodies. The breath is really the key. The breath is the key. Whatever, that's what yoga has such a, impact on people. And
what do you think the biggest obstacle is to being present with what's occurring in the body right now?
Like right now, like today?
No, I mean this second, like in every second. What do you think the obstacle is in that moment? Because there are people who, everything you just said about becoming present to the breath, starting to soften the muscle in the diaphragm. I mean, you're talking about being in the now inside your body. Mm-hmm. So my question is, what do you think stops people from doing that? What's the biggest challenge you've seen with all the people you've worked with? Is there a commonality?
Yeah, fear of pain.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of pain.
So what would you say to them about that fear of pain to support them to continue and to go in deeper?
That's the longer they're going to be contracted around the fear of pain, the longer they're going to be in pain. There was I can't remember in which book that was, but like the suffering is the resistance to pain.
Right.
So my work, I feel like the crusade I'm on is to help people being willing to feel their pain, mm-hmm. and to open to what I call the oceanic inner wave. Because when you are able to let that pass through, what could be a 3 years journey into depression could be a 3 minutes happening on your cushion.
Right. And at the embodiment conference that you just did, I know there are lots of different somatic practices. I'm wondering if you learned any that were exciting that you might want to share with us, or any that that you think are super effective, something practical that listeners can actually do at home.
Well, one that I'm really onto right now is, and I'm working with my students around, is the difference between meditating, praying, and presencing. And so a lot of us do meditate, a lot of us pray, but not that many of us do presence. And so presencing is when you are in that, like in your safe space at home, maybe where you would meditate usually, and being able to start sensing into the body, looking for a place of contraction. Where is it contracted? Often it could be the solar plexus, around the heart, the throat, the back of the neck, the belly. So then perhaps put your hands there, and without changing anything, without changing the breath, just being with and giving it presence. It was like, hi, hello, I'm here. What do you need? So you're starting as very gentle with this part of your body, and probably often could be the inner child or the inner teenager, that hasn't been processed yet, that feeling that's happened at some times. Or it could be something that happened to you 2 days ago and that you haven't been able to digest because, it triggered something older usually. So that presencing is huge because that's pretty much what the body wants, and that when you go to a body worker, that's the same thing. You want them to be able to be with, you want to give a chance to the body mind to have an expression, to be given attention. And then, you just giving the attention and asking, what's up? What do you need? You can start feeling like the breath is starting to relax. And when the breath is able to open up, then there might be the memory can come up to your consciousness. That, oh, that happened and that really triggered you. Okay. Are you in grief? Are you in anger? Like, I'm in grief. I want to cry, and then you allow yourself, and I have a lot of people that come to me. It's like, I haven't cried in years. I don't know how to access that. And so that work needs to happen. And you have to let the body open up so that you can be that free instrument that's able to move the oceanic inner wave through in just a few minutes.
The other beauty in what you describe in that kind of presence, and I love your words, oceanic, like that's a lovely word, is acceptance. To me, when you don't accept what is occurring, Because all kinds of things you might discover in your present moment in your body. But if you don't accept it, then you're in judgment. You've just gone back up into the head, and it completely shuts down the process. It becomes the problem as opposed to what you think is the problem, which is the feeling you just found that you needed to move away from. Do you agree?
Exactly. I agree. And, I'm talking to a lot of people right now because, I'm presenting a program very soon. And, some people are like, well, is this going to heal me? It's like, it's a 3 months, journey. It's like, am I going to be healed? It's like, well, to my understanding and seeing, some people that come back, and work with me over the years and myself, it's like, what does it mean to be really healed? It's exactly what you just addressed, Tasha, right there. It's that acceptance, that self-love, that no matter what is moving through you, you are 100% with yourself.
Yeah.
You're just like holding all parts of you going like, whoa, you're really angry right now. Good for you, girl. Go express that, know?
Yeah.
It's
and
like being able to be backing ourselves up. Yeah.
That level of acceptance, I think, is such a key component to embodiment. And what I want to ask you is why at this time globally, because the world's going through so much, the frequencies so off the charts in so many ways right now. Why is that level of love and acceptance so needed globally? So even beyond the individual, and their own freedom and purpose and passion, but on a global level. Do you have a sense? Would you like to answer that question that way?
Well, we're in this extreme period of polarity, right? And so interesting, like it's everything can have a political component right now, right? For here in the States, where like tomorrow is a big day.
Where are you? Are you in Hawaii?
Yeah,
I got the feeling. Oh, okay, good. Lucky girl. Where in Hawaii?
I'm in Kauai.
Nice.
The island of Kauai.
Nice.
I feel like there was a time, where I felt like our humanity and all of us that are conscious thinker, I felt like we were going into a certain direction. Protecting the environment, like there was a lot of realization and a lot of people, stepping forward into wanting to create a sense of unity on the planet, right? And then, it's almost like we're all going in that direction, and then things happen and division exploded in our face. And division has been cultivated on the planet this last few years to an extreme point, right? Which is, we're at the worst of it, everything that's polarized. So I think perhaps even in ourselves, there is that sense of polarization. Another subject I really love to look at right now is the masculine feminine journey. Where, I believe that we all have a very masculine and a very feminine self. And so for me, it's not gender related, no matter which body you're walking on this planet with. And it's that, that division is also happening, between that masculine and that feminine place.
Can you define the masculine and the feminine in all of us? Can you just give a quick little characteristics?
Yeah, so that young energy, that's more focusing, maybe more mental, goal-oriented, purposeful, direct, is more what I would define as the masculine. And then with the feminine, the receptive, the magnetic, the all-encompassing. Instead of that direct, sense of vision, it's more like looking things from above and making sure that the whole is being taken care of. So that's kind of maternal aspect of the feminine. I guess we all agree that we've been in that very masculine, round of our humanity for centuries now, and even in ourselves. I know for me, I was raised by a man. And in order to be surviving, I had to be very masculine, and I had to push and thrive and go. And my healing journey is actually very much, and for my body, because I've pushed that body hard, and to really finally get to a place where no, where are you leading from right now? Are you leading from, your whole belly, heart, feminine aspect of your life, or are you still in your masculine? Because I know I'm not supposed to do that, for my own personal journey. So I'm not sure, if I'm responding to your question.
Well, I'll weave you back to the global situation, because that's how we segued to masculine, feminine. You were saying another point in your observation of globally is this piece around masculine, feminine.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of us are realizing that that the only thing that's going to really save the day is like if all of us are now honoring the feminine aspect of ourselves, and that's also the earth. She's a very feminine being. So, what does that mean? That gives us the permission to feel, right? Needs to be prior to anything else. And I know a lot of men that are reaching out to me like, I want to feel. I forgot I wasn't trained in that. I don't know how, but that's challenge to, to be disheartened, by and not being able to really take responsibility in our actions in the world is when we disconnect from the heart, when we disconnect from the feminine aspect. And I don't want to say that the male doesn't have heart, it's like that the heart of the protector, the heart of the warrior, but I believe it has to be led from that, like, elderly wisdom, of the feminine that really needs to come fully on board at this point. I think that's
if the masculine is action and the feminine is that deep inner knowing, it's, to me, the question is, which aspect of self are you serving? And it only makes sense that the action would serve something deeper in tune with your heart. Exactly. As opposed to them being at war, because that would really be painful. And that's often what I think happens to a lot of people. They feel as polarized as the world is, they feel polarized internally, where exactly. A part of them is going, I should be doing this, and I should be doing doing laps and going to the gym, and I'm not doing anything. And then there's a beingness. So that integration or that marriage of what is serving, how is the masculine in you serving what your heart knows you want to offer? That's the marriage, right?
That's the golden marriage.
Kind of marriage. Yeah, you call it golden. I like that.
The golden marriage.
I haven't heard that term, but that's kind of what I would love to see everyone step towards, as opposed to the boxes of marriage.
And that's what I call, Tasha, shoulding all over yourself. Yeah. If I should do this, I should do that. Yeah. We're shoulding on ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so globally there are shifts going on. How do you think, what can the individual do besides what we've already touched on? Obviously, get present with themselves, accept themselves, marry your masculine and your feminine. Hey, let's have a global day. Let's create a global day where everybody gets married to their masculine, feminine. Yeah, how about that? That's Conscious amazing. Living Network. Shall we do that?
That would be a really interesting,
and it would be Zoom. We could wear whatever you want to wear, but
you could do the half face, the feminine, the masculine. You could
do that. I definitely would do something.
I would do something like that for sure. But anyway. what an iconic gesture that would really represent that and acknowledge in that, and like you're saying, Yemaya, it's not gender specific. It's right. Nature of all things, a masculine and feminine, and to marry ourselves. What a powerful ritual I think that would be, because I think in our lives today, in our society, we're missing so many of these coming of age rituals and different parts of, kind of maturing and growing up. If you look at the indigenous cultures, there was always these rite of passages and things of that nature. And I certainly know some men who could use to embrace their feminine side.
All right, we're doing it. We're doing a marriage.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That would be really interesting.
That's beautiful. I just want to put a plug in for a beautiful sister, and actually she's from British Columbia. If you know Unity Grace,
I don't.
She's a teacher who travels the world, and like the last few months, I heard of what she was doing. She was doing ritual of marrying everything. Like she was like, oh, today I married the ants. And today, bringing that
becoming
union,
one with,
so precious.
So I want to make sure we get to some of the work that you've got coming up in your current focus, which I know is on grief and loss. I'm curious, first of all, what you see as the key components of letting go. Can we start there? And then I'd love to move into how important it is to mourn fully and how that supports you moving into freedom.
So, in order to let go, well, there's, several steps, of course, but, first you need to acknowledge, and perhaps, that there is something that needs to be let go of. You want to identify what that is. Sometimes I have people mourn parts of their lives, like perhaps they have to mourn innocence that was robbed from them, right? Mm-hmm. So there is identifying and then honoring. Honoring is huge. I often have, people create rituals, with bowls of water and flowers, and honoring the part that needs to be let go of. And that can be a part of the self. That can be, like a beloved parent, anything. Excuse me. Forgiveness is huge. We do a lot of work around that. You can't really move forward if forgiveness hasn't been addressed. And sometimes it takes practice. It takes repetition. We have here in Hawaii, we have the Ho'oponopono practice, mm-hmm. which is very powerful, very very simple and very powerful. I keep repeating that.
Well, it is so simple. Maybe just, why don't we just tell our listeners, for those who don't know, because it is simple and yet it is powerful. So I'm sure that
the part that we know, Westerners, is simple. Mm-hmm. According to my kumu, my source, my teacher here in Hawaii, it's like, I remember her saying like, it would take a lifetime really to create the proper Ho'oponopono. But the results that I see on the people I work with that practice is amazing. And, the formula itself is, please forgive me. I am sorry. I love you. Thank you. And you can repeat that. I have different formulas and numbers of time and times of the day. I have people practice that. I'm not going to reveal all right here, but it's extremely counterintuitive, right? Because you will ask your offender to forgive you. Yeah. And that's where the magic happens, I don't know if you can hear that.
Is that your...
It is, or I don't know what we are.
Like a tsunami, sound of tsunami.
Hopefully it's not a tsunami. So it might last a couple of minutes.
You truly don't know what it means?
On Mondays? No, usually it would be Wednesday if it was a test run.
Oh, it would be a test for a tsunami? It is the tsunami sound though, isn't it?
It is the tsunami siren, yeah. Dun, 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 dun.
We should all take a big deep breath and imagine that water flowing over us.
Marc, you're muted.
That's so I can avoid background sounds if they come up.
Yeah, should I? Well, I think hopefully we would.
No, because if you mute, then we won't hear you either.
Yeah, I know.
There, it's all gone.
So I kind of lost my thread here.
The practice, which I love, even as you said the words,
yeah.
Just saying them, especially to your offender, to me, the depth of it means I am not a victim of something. I'm so much bigger. For someone who, if you've been victimized, to say, I am sorry to your offender, it's as if you're identifying with something. The victim couldn't do that. Your victim actually couldn't do that. It's a part of you that's so much bigger. And for me, that's the feeling I always get, even just when you did those words here, it's an expansion that starts to happen with each breath as you say it, but a loving heart expansion. It was lovely. Yeah.
And it's really choosing to step out of the victimhood,
right.
Yeah.
So loss can paralyze us and people feel stuck and they feel frozen, and yet it can also be such a catalyst to freedom and expansion. What makes the difference?
So again, it's choosing to feel and choosing to expand, choosing to grow, choosing to honor. When you are not willing to address your losses and your grief, you have to store it somewhere, so we're going back full circle about, how the body stores the emotion, right? Mm-hmm. And, grief and mourning, when there's been a loss, if it's someone that, you lost a parent, you lost, beloved pet, you lost a child, like worst of all, right? Grief has its own rhythm, its own journey. But really, the more time you give it, the freer you will be. So there need to be a choice of wanting to be free. If you're feeling some guilt around the loss, then it's harder. Then that's where the forgiveness work comes in, right? So, so using the grief to go deep within the emotional body. And also it seems to be opening almost like another dimension, right? It's like trusting that there is something beyond the beyond.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the best tool for stopping that negative self-talk, which it's usually, oh, I should have, if only I had, or what? There's usually people, or often people will lean into some sort of regret, and it's quite negative, right? So what tools might you suggest that would be helpful to slow that down and transform that negative self-talk into something helpful?
I think it's really important, again, come back to things, to not keep things inside the body. So perhaps journal, when you journal, you put things out of the body, speak to someone, speak to friends, reach to a counselor or a therapist. It's like, it's really, I come from a ritual background. One of my first healing was, in a shamanic Celtic, community. And so we put things out in the space, we create magic by moving energy outside of this body, and I think that might help a lot, because how many times, maybe you need to write it for 10 years, like if I had done this, if I had done that, but just don't keep it in, that's the main thing. Don't keep it in.
Tell us about the program you've got coming up, because I know you've got a really exciting From Grief to Love, Trauma to Freedom program.
Thank you. Yes, this is our third round, the third time I'm offering this program. It's 3 months, it's 12 weeks. And it's really taking the students through that journey. At first, we uprooting everything that's in our garden, and the remnants of things that are in our way for what we really want to grow, to be blossoming and successful. For example, like the lack of sense of belonging is something we spend a lot of time around, because if you come from divorced family, or you lost a parent, there's something different in your upbringing than your other children in school. There is that like sense of not fully belonging that's very painful, and can be in the way of a lot of things. It can be in the way of your intimate relationship. It can be in the way of creating wealth, So we do a lot of work around that. We do a lot of work around abandonment issues, which a lot of us have, of course. It's like, we separate from source from the start, and then separated from the mother, and, and on and on. So, so we pull those weeds out. And then that's the first month, usually, like this beautiful garden, that we're preparing. Then we start tilling the ground, and we make space, because when you want to create a new reality, you need to have space for it. If all the past is in the way, how can the newness that you long for can land into your garden? There is no space for it. So we till the ground, and then we refine each other's seed. Each person that attends the work, it's like, okay, what is your gift? What is so unique to you, that you want to see grow in this moment in time on this planet? So there is a refinement of that. And then the third month, we create the trellis and the support so that people can really blossom into who they want to be. I have some, I just want to say that, a lot of people that are coming to this work have worked on themselves often, for a while, but they're missing a piece. There's something that keeps pulling them back down, And, I want to say that the success rate that I have with this work is amazing, and to see how people just like lift to their next level.
And the whole thing's online. Will they be doing breakout rooms or personal work in pods, or will they?
Yeah.
Will do an experiential component, because I think that's what everyone.
Yes, very much
craves.
so. They have private sessions with me through Zoom. Those that are living on Kauai, have the chance to be able to receive some body work as well. I want to, put another plug for somebody. You have an amazing Rosen method practitioner in Vancouver area.
Who is it?
Mariette Bernstein.
Mariette.
I can send the, Bernstein, and she used to have a center on one of the islands. I'm forgetting the name. Anyway, so that's, people could also get body work, while they do the online.
Thank you. I love it.
Yeah. So then we have group sessions, so again, we use Zoom as been, I was lucky to have prepared this whole online journey for the last 3 years. I was at a point of the growth of my work where I was like, okay, it's time to really move online. So I've been really prepared, for these times, which, is a blessing for me. So we have those group calls, where people have a chance to witness each other in their growth. Then they have accountability partners that they work with every week. And then they have access to an online school, where I have every week, a different flow with videos, guided journeys, articles, and pieces of homework. It's very hands-on. I want to tell people it's not the type of program, you buy it and then it's sitting on your computer and you forget about it. Because I'm on people's case. It's very hands-on. It
sounds like an immersion. It sounds like it's a productive like you get to set your intention in the big picture, right? But there's an immersion into what gets in your way, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so, you're pretty fearless about getting on people's case. I love that.
Yes, I'm fierce and compassionate, both in the same time.
You had mentioned earlier about belonging, and I think people do struggle so much with that sense of not belonging. How do you think you recognize your heart tribe? Because I've made mistakes, just like in relationship, where I thought, this is, and I've been very, very wrong, not a little bit wrong, very wrong. So I'm curious if you have a sense of how one actually knows these are my people. Not that we're not all one people, but you know what I mean?
Wow, I would love for you to tell me more about that.
Well, when you come to Vancouver, or you could invite me to Hawaii, no problem. I'll get on a plane.
Oh dear. It's energetic. I think it's energetic, I know that the tribe that I keep, growing, the qualities I would define is genuine and heart-based.
Right.
That's and strong. I feel like the people in the program that I keep seeing, so that would be my, my tribe, coming from all kind of different places in the world, different communities. But I keep seeing those three. It's like they're genuine in their willingness to heal. They're strong because they survived, a bunch of stuff, and they're heart-centered and they're heartfelt. So, perhaps, it's like for each one of us to really define what are the most important qualities you want to have in your life, and it's like, okay, are these people living that? Do they feel that way when I'm around them? Do I feel empowered, supported? Is my breath moving freely?
Right. I love that. And I think for me, it's now, with all I've learned, because I certainly didn't know this back then, authenticity was my carrot, but I would convince myself, or I would want to believe that people were genuine and authentic, and I would override some of the other information that would be coming through, and simply in the desire to have a heart tribe. And I think that's not, that whenever we override our intuition or our body wisdom, we get into trouble.
That is so true. And that is definitely, that's the most important piece. I feel like you're so amazing. Jeez. You know, it's that, yeah, like that's that knowing, that trusting our own guidance and feeling like we're secure in it. It's huge. And it's definitely like, you know, one of the huge byproducts of that journey of healing, you know.
Yeah. And you had mentioned earlier about the inner child. I actually know that the one who wanted to believe that everybody was so real and genuine because I wanted to belong was my little girl. And so the beauty of that is you don't have to make that bad or wrong, but you learn a different relationship with that young part. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to give her away to because you want to believe in something, right?
Yeah. You have to become the good parents.
The good parent. You get a do-over, I say to my clients. You get a do-over. So what have we not touched on? If people want to find out more information about you and how to sign up for this beautiful 3-month journey, where would they go? I mean, first of all, we will have it online as well, consciouslivingradio.org, but tell our listeners where they can find more of you.
Yes, the website is TheEmbrace.life, Life. TheEmbrace.life. They can also do Yemaya Renuka, but it's a little harder to spell.
Right.
So TheEmbrace.life. And they can, you know, people, I'm still welcoming people for 3 more days. So I know, you know, like your listener are going to have to, you know, make a quick decision, but I'm very happy to jump on a call and a free consultation with anyone that has questions and want to explore if that would be what they've been looking for. I have a YouTube channel, you know, if they look, you know, for TheEmbrace.life, they should be able to find it. So there's a lot of content there.
And the heart of belonging, which is a guided journey that you're gifting everyone to listen to. I think the beauty of that is they will get a feel for you from, you know, eyes closed, like from their inside out, you know, which is such a great way to make decisions. Where would they find that, the heart of belonging?
They will find it on TheEmbrace.life.
Beautiful. So I really encourage everyone to, if you're thinking about doing this and you're worth it, 3 months of focus on self with somebody who's fierce and loving, which is awesome. I think you need both. That's the masculine feminine right there. Fierce is going, let's go, we're going in. And the loving, you know, heart just goes, and whatever happens is perfect. So it has really been a delight meeting you. And,
same here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Do you have anything, Marc? Or how's our time here?
No, I was just busy putting the links in the comments on Facebook.
Cool. Well, how about...
I want to just say a little something. So, you know, I was in Vancouver for 2 years and I was presenting a work called Freedom Dances at the time. So we were really like, you know, fully moving in our bodies. And I love the tribe in Vancouver. And I'm so sad I was not able to come back since then. I certainly hope that, you know, this will help us reconnect and reweave, and that I'll come and visit sometimes.
Oh, that'd be lovely. What's your final wish from your heart to the world? The world's listening.
Get into your heart and be wise. Move from love, not fear.
Thank you.
Yeah. And take care of the beast and the children and the elder.
Thanks so much for joining us. You've been listening.
Pleasure.
You've been listening to Conscious Living Radio 100.5 FM in Vancouver, Co-op Radio. I'm Tasha Sims.
And I'm Marc Caron.
Till next week. Bye.
Bye now.